Cold white light glided across the ceiling of the interrogation chamber, highlighting every steel edge of the underground Arkanis fortress, a labyrinth buried deep beneath deadly red sands, a place where no one truly knew day from night. Rowan Veyr awoke to find himself tightly bound to a metal chair, his wrists burning from energy cuffs. His left eye was swollen shut, his lip split, the metallic taste of blood still lingering on his tongue. Two towering aliens with gray-blue skin and armor inscribed with strange glyphs circled him like predators toying with their meal. Human, one of them growled in harsh intergalactic common, the electric baton in its hand glowing violet. Your kind has no permission to be here. Speak, are you a Lycarian spy or just some low-rank smuggler? Rowan chuckled despite the pain stabbing his jaw. Just a tourist, came here after hearing Arkanis was full of breathtaking sights, but your security team sure knows how to make visitors feel welcome. A jolt of electricity shot through his body. Rowan clenched his teeth, refusing to scream, letting out only a soft groan before exhaling slowly, eyes never leaving the two guards. Sometimes he wondered if his instinct to provoke his enemies was the only strength Earth had truly left him in his genes. Suddenly, the door slid open. The room froze as a new figure entered, tall, every movement sharp and commanding. Dark armor covered her from neck to boot, leaving only a face with cold violet eyes exposed. Rowan knew instantly. This was no ordinary soldier, this was a commander. The air changed instantly. Commander Nerai Voss. The guard saluted in the Reen tongue, then backed away, eyes filled with awe and trepidation. Nerai said nothing, merely approached Rowan, gaze scanning him from head to toe as if studying a peculiar specimen. What is your name? Her voice was as sharp as a blade slicing through ice. Rowan Veyr, free citizen of the Terran Union, and I'm wondering, do you always beat up strangers as part of your immigration ritual, or is this a special welcome? He smirked, forcing his eyes to feign defiance. Nerai silently studied him, then suddenly leaned closer, yanking down the collar of Rowan's shirt. A dark bruise trailed along his collarbone, but at its center was a faint spiral glimmering silver under the lights. Nerai's eyes darkened. She pulled a small device from her sleeve and scanned the mark. The screen lit up with ancient characters before letting out a long, insistent tone. The entire room fell silent. Rowan had no idea what was happening, only that the atmosphere had shifted, the guards' expressions changing from cold indifference to stunned fear. Nerai abruptly stepped back, her eyes never leaving the mark on his skin. Her lips trembled, a strange emotion flickering deep in her gaze. In that very moment she dropped to her knees on the floor, a gesture not befitting a commander but an ancient ritual of the Reen. Both guards shouted, "Commander, what are you doing?" Nerai did not answer. Her hand, trembling, reached out to gently touch the mark. Rowan startled, every muscle taut, heart racing, afraid, curious, and somehow feeling a strange current spreading from her touch throughout his entire body. "That is a mate mark," Nerai whispered, her eyes hypnotized by the pattern on Rowan's skin. She glanced at the scanner, the ancient script flashing repeatedly. "Bond complete, mate soul confirmed." The air froze. Rowan could only stammer, "Mate what?" Nerai exhaled shakily, her hand still resting on his chest, her voice choked with an emotion she could barely contain. "A mate mark, the mark of a destined partner. This should not be possible." The two guards were like statues, until one, panicked, rushed forward to pull Nerai up. She whipped around, her gaze sharp as a blade. "Touch me again and I'll erase your DNA from the Reen legacy." The guard recoiled instantly, sweat beading on his forehead. Rowan's eyes darted between them, trying to swallow this impossible turn of events. Pain, confusion, and then, strangely, a sense that all of this was somehow right. That this mark, always haunting him since childhood, never explained, was now a chain of fate binding him to a powerful alien woman. Nerai shivered, swiping at the scanner. Full genetic analysis. Retrieve mate bond data from Reen archives. The AI's voice was cold. Genetic compatibility, 99.9%. Soul fragment detected. Mate soul previously bonded to former clan leader. Confirmation of soul fragment retention. Silence blanketed the room. Nerai was stunned. For the first time, her violet eyes lost their cold authority and instead shimmered with pain and longing. "Why is it you?" The question escaped her like a cry of despair. Rowan could only shake his head. He didn't understand a thing, just that his chest was burning, his heart racing as if his soul was being called from a long, deep sleep. "Commander, we must report to the council immediately," a guard said, voice trembling. "No," Nerai enunciated each word. "No one is to report this. This is a forbidden right. Disobey, and you will be exiled from the Voss bloodline." Rowan barely had time to react before Nerai stood, her eyes reclaiming their authority, now burning with a strange fire that defied all science. "Release him. Take him to the med bay. I'll supervise personally." "But," Nerai didn't turn, her voice icy. "Disobey and choose your own fate." Rowan was unshackled, crimson marks circling his wrists. He glanced at Nerai and saw her eyes had lost their distance, now alive with a battle between instinct and inner conflict. The corridor to the med bay stretched on endlessly, lined with softly glowing blue sigils. Nerai led the way, her posture like an ancient warrior striding toward a ritual that would decide the fate of her entire people. Rowan followed, both dizzy and curious, sensing that his life would never be the same, and that this mate mark would drag him into a war of instincts, emotions, and destinies stranger than anything he'd ever imagined. At the end of the hall before a great door, Nerai paused, turning to face him. "Do you know," she said slowly, "on Arkanis, only those chosen by fate bear this mate mark. If it's a forgery, the bearer dies by my hand. If it's true, you belong to me, and only death will separate us." Rowan swallowed hard, all his former bravado gone. But deep within, something stirred, a sensation of fear and yearning, as if his soul was calling out to someone across infinite worlds. The med bay doors slid open, blue light pouring over both of them, a sign of a new beginning, where fate, instinct, and temptation would together rewrite everything. The pale blue lights of the med bay washed over Rowan's skin, making the blood on his wrists and the bruises along his collarbone stand out even more starkly. Nerai led him into a sealed room deep within the lowest level, a place reserved solely for the ritual healing of Voss warriors, completely isolated from all standard surveillance systems. Inside, everything gleamed coldly. Touchscreen monitors, a biobed, a DNA analyzer, and a host of strange devices blinking like secret eyes. She motioned for Rowan to lie down on the examination bed. When he hesitated, Nerai closed in, locking eyes with him. "If you truly bear the mate mark, there are only two paths left for you: recognition or permanent elimination. There is no room for counterfeit existence among our people." Rowan met her gaze, feeling an invisible weight pressing on his chest, part instinct, part authority, part a vague fear rising from the depths of his soul. He lay down, his back meeting the icy surface of the biobed. Nerai's hands flew over the control panel. Sensors attached themselves automatically to his body. A beam of light scanned him from head to toe, the monitor instantly filling with lines of script, analyzing every strand of gene, every biological indicator, even the abnormal waves rippling through his mind. She paused at his side, silent as she absorbed data only she could decipher. Rowan felt her breath close to his skin, that alien scent, both cool and faintly sweet, utterly unlike any woman he'd ever known. He forced a wry smile. "Do I need to sign a liability waiver first? Or here, does medical checkup mean stripping away every secret, even the ones I don't know I have?" Nerai did not answer. Instead, she removed her gloves and pressed her bare hand gently to the mate mark on his collarbone. A faint current surged through his flesh. In that moment, Rowan felt his chest thrum violently, his heart pounding as if someone had ignited a spark of primal instinct deep within his soul. On the screen, a message flashed. Mate mark resonance, 98.7%. Soul echo detected. Genetic profile compatible, risk of emergent biological reaction, high. Nerai froze. Her eyes shifted from icy calm to a mix of confusion and fear. She whispered, her words barely more than a breath in his ear. You don't just bear the mate mark. Your genetic code has merged with a fragment of soul memory, memories that once belonged to me. Rowan looked up at her, his voice growing hoarse. I'm not that person, but it seems fate enjoys playing tricks on us both. In that instant, the space between them seemed to vanish. Rowan noticed Nerai's breathing quicken, her eyes flickering with a fire that was impossible to define, part instinct, part desire, part fierce inner conflict. Her hand remained on the mate mark, her fingers tracing it lightly, unconsciously sketching ancient sigils onto his skin. Why can I feel someone else's emotions inside you? Nerai whispered. Why, when I touch you, do I want so much more than this? Rowan closed his eyes, trying to steady his breath. The wounds, the pain, the fear, all faded beneath the overwhelming, primal sensation radiating from the mate mark. They drifted into a strange silence, only the beeping of machines and the wild beat of their hearts filling the air. Suddenly, Nerai pulled away and stepped back. She forced herself back into the cold authority of command, ordering the AI to begin extended biological analysis. Initiate pheromone sensitivity sequence. Reference standard. Mate bond archive of the previous Voss leader. The AI responded. Sequence initiated. Warning. Risk of advanced biochemical reaction detected. Recommend isolation or inhibition protocol. Nerai hesitated, then motioned for Rowan to sit up. She retrieved a slender metal band from a drawer and handed it to him. Wear this on your wrist. If pheromone levels exceed the danger threshold, it'll automatically alert the entire med bay. I won't risk someone losing control. Rowan grinned lopsidedly. Honestly, I'm not sure what I'll do myself if I keep feeling everything, like I just did. Nerai held his gaze longer this time. Her eyes, for the first time, no longer the eyes of a cold commander, but of a woman torn between reason and instinct. Tonight, she said, we'll conduct the ritual to verify the mate mark. If your soul is truly compatible, the Voss instinct inside me will be unable to resist you. If not, that instinct will erase the mark, and all this will end in silence. She turned to leave but paused at the door, her voice trembling. You don't know just how dangerous this is for both you and me, Rowan Veyr. The door closed, leaving Rowan alone in the faint blue light. He stared at the band on his wrist, heart still racing. Memories of Earth of his old life seemed to blur. Only the strange mark remained, and the shadow of an alien woman steadily eroding his last defenses. Night descended on the underground fortress of Arkanis. Rowan was led to an ancient ritual chamber, a strange space where glowing sigils circled the walls, black stone floors shone like glass, and a stone altar dominated the center. Nerai appeared, no longer clad in her commander's armor, but in a tight garment that hugged her pale blue skin marked with silver patterns. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders, and her violet eyes looked straight at Rowan, this time hiding nothing. Step up to the altar. Don't say a word. Any explanation now will only make things spiral out of control faster. Rowan obeyed, and they faced each other atop the cold stone. Nerai raised her hand, pressing it lightly to his mate mark. In that instant, the air thickened. Every vein in Rowan's body seemed stretched taut, his heart pounding, every sense overwhelmed by an emotion he'd never felt before. Nerai whispered in the old tongue, "If fate has chosen, let my soul meet the ancient soul in your body. If not, you will die, and I'll forget everything once called mate bond." Her hand grew hot, the mate mark on Rowan's skin blazing with light, streams of silver racing down his body to each of Nerai's fingertips. Visions flooded Rowan's mind, bloody battlefields, a fallen warrior woman, a promise left unfinished between two souls. In that moment, Rowan was no longer himself. Another part, foreign yet familiar, rose up, making him instinctively place his hand on Nerai's shoulder, pulling her close. Their breaths mingled, heartbeats aligning, with nothing left between them but life and raw instinct. Nerai's lips touched the mate mark on Rowan's skin, featherlight yet searingly hot, a ritual but also a conflagration. Her breath shook, her voice rough. "I can't resist." Instinct pulled them closer. Rowan pulled Nerai to him, his fingers sliding over her cool, silver-tinged skin, feeling every rapid breath, every shiver from the once powerful woman now melting in his embrace. No words passed between them, only urgent breaths, pounding hearts, and the sensation of two souls intertwining. Nerai surrendered to the pull of instinct, forgetting all the barriers of command, law, and danger. Rowan let himself be swept away by feeling, lost in a whirlwind where he was no longer alien or Terran, just a chosen soul merging with another. They became entangled atop the ritual altar, leaving shimmering marks pressed into their skin, mingling the silver glow of the mate mark with heated breaths and faint, desperate moans echoing through ancient darkness. When it was over, Nerai lay in Rowan's arms, her eyes distant yet strangely at peace. Beyond the steel door, the sound of approaching footsteps, danger already stalking closer. Nerai sighed, gently stroking the mate mark on his chest, her voice a whisper. "From now on, whether we want it or not, our fates are bound together, and war is coming very soon." Rowan held her tighter, his heart swirling with confusion and anticipation, knowing that fate had just opened a new chapter, a chapter of instinct, betrayal, and the hunger to live and love, even if death waited ahead. The next morning, Arkanis was blanketed in a veil of red dust. The remnants of the ancient ritual still lingered in the air of the ceremonial chamber, where Rowan Veyr awoke with a strange sensation. The mate mark on his body burned brighter than ever, silver energy threads running beneath his skin like new rivers of life. Nerai Voss sat silently beside him, her gaze distant and dreamy, her lips curving in a faint smile that vanished the moment she looked into his eyes. "Last night, every barrier was shattered," Nerai whispered, softly stroking the mate mark on Rowan's chest. "And it means that everything I've kept hidden from the council, none of it can be hidden any longer." Rowan nodded slightly, his fingers squeezing her wrist as if anchoring himself to an irreversible truth. "If you tell them everything, what are our chances of survival?" Nerai let out a bitter laugh, her voice tinged with resignation. "On Arkanis, a mate bond with an outsider is forbidden. It's considered a curse." She helped him put on a medical robe to cover the mate mark, which still glimmered faintly beneath the fabric. The air between them was taut as a bowstring, every glance threatening to reignite their primal connection, and yet each held the fear of what was to come. A blaring alarm rang out through every level of the fortress. The steel door swung open and two Voss female warriors entered, eyes cold, weapons trembling slightly, not out of fear of Rowan but terror at the change in their commander. "Commander, the council has called an emergency session. There is news of a mate mark appearing on a human's body," one soldier announced, her tone a chill mixture of suspicion and outrage. Nerai remained calm, donning her command armor, turning to Rowan, her eyes fierce with resolve. "Come with me, there's nowhere left to hide." The corridor leading to the council's grand hall was cloaked in shadow, its walls engraved with ancient script, a reminder of unbroken tradition. Rowan strode behind Nerai, his pulse quickening with every step, knowing that his fate and hers was about to be decided by people who worshipped power above all and could never understand love. The hall blazed with crystal lights, the Voss council seated in rows, each clad in silver armor and masks that concealed half their faces. At the center sat Elder Azrael, ageless, her eyes sharp as shards of ice. "Nerai Voss, report. Why have you concealed a mate mark from an outsider within my jurisdiction?" Azrael demanded. Nerai did not bow her head, Her voice was steady. "I discovered the mate mark last night. I have confirmed. The mate soul in this human contains a fragment of our previous clan leader, the one who gave her life to protect Arkanis." A wave of angry whispers swept through the council. Elder Azrael frowned deeply. "You know the rules. Any mate bond with an outsider must be destroyed immediately. No exceptions, not even for those who carry fragments of our own souls." Rowan started to speak, but Nerai stopped him, meeting Azrael's gaze fearless. "If you break this mate bond, we both die. If we continue, I accept the consequences. But this man is not our enemy. He is the destiny our ancestors chose." Another elder rose, voice scornful. "Destiny? Or is it just your weakness for a lesser species?" Suddenly, the room fell silent. Rowan glanced at Nerai, a surge of inexpressible anger rising within him. Yet at the same time, a part of his soul wanted to roar in defiance against the insult. Unexpectedly, the mate mark on his neck blazed with fierce light, illuminating the entire hall. The elders reeled, some leapt to their feet, others shrank back as silver light threaded over Rowan's skin like living webs. The energy burst from the mark, filling the room, making the very stones and ancient glyphs respond with shimmering radiance. Elder Azrael shuddered, her eyes darkening to a deep violet. "The ancient soul has awakened. Impossible." Nerai gripped Rowan's hand, her own trembling but unyielding. "You may kill me, but this soul will never vanish from the legacy of the Voss. If Arkanis demands blood today, let it be ours, and this mate mark that stains the legendary stone." Silence fell. Then one council member issued the order: "Detain them both. Re-examine the mate mark using the ancestral soul scanner. If it's false, execute them at once. If it's true, we will reconsider." The two were taken to a cold, dark isolation cell. The steel door slammed shut, leaving only their ragged breaths in the aftermath of fate's storm. Rowan sat down, leaning back against the wall, meeting Nerai's gaze, where every mask of power had been stripped away. "You knew the danger. Why didn't you just leave me?" His voice was hoarse. Nerai sat beside him, stripping off her outer armor, revealing pale blue skin and swirling silver markings around her shoulders. "Because the moment the mate mark blazed, every bit of reason inside me shattered. That hunger isn't ordinary lust. It's an ancient instinct that can't be resisted." Rowan reached out, brushing her shoulder, feeling the tremor in her muscles beneath the cool skin. "If we don't survive, I want to hear you speak from your heart at least once." Nerai met his eyes, their gazes mingling in the soft light of the mate bond, her voice trembling in a whisper. "You are my mate, the destiny I did not choose but one I cannot deny." The distance between them melted, each breath weighted with captivity and surging feeling. Rowan pulled Nerai close, their lips meeting in a kiss that was both sweet longing and hopeless desperation. It was no longer a ritual, but a shedding of every fear, prejudice, and threat looming just beyond the walls. Their bodies sought one another, filling the emptiness of their souls. In the cell's darkness, surrounded by machinery and biting cold, the mate mark on Rowan's chest shone again, illuminating the wounds fate had forced upon them both. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Light seeped through the door crack, yanking them back to reality. A team of technicians entered, faces set and weapons ready, carrying the ancestral soul scanner. "Begin the scan. Any resistance will be punished immediately." Rowan and Nerai were separated and laid on parallel stone tables. The scanner whirled around Rowan's mate mark, silver energy spiraling upward. Data flooded the screens, ancient glyphs dancing as if alive. A technician murmured, "Never seen such a powerful reincarnated soul. The data matches the Voss legacy. This is a true ancient mate bond." Nerai looked at Rowan, her eyes brimming with tears of pride and sorrow. She knew that if the results were confirmed, the council would not dare execute them publicly. But they would never let them go, for this mate bond was proof of rebellion, something they could never control. The scanner emitted an odd sequence of tones, the screen flashing red. True mate bond, extreme biological instability risk. Recommend isolation or soul incineration if uncontrollable. Elder Azrael appeared, her eyes filled with both fear and hatred. You too are the embodiment of fleshly betrayal. From now on, your fate will be decided by ancient law. Either fully unite in the forbidden rite or be erased forever. The cell door slammed shut. Nerai quietly turned to Rowan, squeezing his hand like a vow in the darkness. Whatever happens, I won't let go. Tonight, this mate mark will choose who is truly worthy of surviving. Outside, a meteor shower rained thick across the Arkanis' desert sky, each point of light piercing the thick glass, illuminating two souls clutching each other in the palm of fate, suspended on the edge of love, betrayal, and immortality. Night fell over Arkanis like an unending curse. In the fortress's isolated cell, Rowan Veyr and Nerai Voss sat close together, the silver glow of the mate mark on Rowan's chest still pulsing, at once a sign of life and a warning for them both. They had only each other, surrounded not just by steel walls but by their own kind, power struggles and ancient traditions lurking just beyond. The intercom crackled, Elder Azrael's voice cold as ice. Prepare for the union ritual. Subjects, Rowan Veyr and Nerai Voss, all council members to convene at the Blackstone Sanctuary. Media blackout, anyone who leaks information will be executed. Two Voss warriors entered, unable to hide their fear and curiosity as they bound Rowan's hands, walked Nerai beside him, and escorted them through the frigid halls. Along the way, ancient carvings on the walls lit up eerily as the mate mark drew near, as if Arkanis' very legacy was waking from its millennial slumber. They stepped into the Blackstone Sanctuary, a vast chamber with a soaring dome, floors of obsidian gleaming with every footfall. In the center was the ritual dais, two interlocking circles etched deep with soul glyphs, a cold silver cloth laid across the top. The council sat in a circle, faces drawn with tension and anger. Elder Azrael spoke. This ritual has been forbidden for more than 500 cycles, but when a true mate bond appears, no law may prevent its completion. Today, before the entire council, you will either unite, or your souls will dissolve forever. The pair were unbound and led to the dais. Rowan stood bare-chested, the mate mark shining in intricate patterns, reaching through the air to the silver crest on Nerai's wrist, a sign that their destinies had been bound since the moment the mark ignited. Nerai gazed at him, her eyes a storm of fear, longing, pain, and challenge. If we fail, both of us will be nothing but dust in memory. If we succeed, this mate bond will shake all of Arkanis' history. Rowan didn't answer, only placed a hand on her face, pulling Nerai close, their lips meeting amid the council's fearful, scrutinizing stares. In that instant, all AI devices and ancient soul scanners sounded in unison. Resonance level 99, 8% fusion threshold activated. Elder Azrael commanded, begin the union. On the stone dais, in the shimmer of silver light and dozens of cold eyes, Rowan and Nerai shed every last defense. Rowan pulled Nerai to him, his hand running along her pale blue skin, feeling the fierce vibrations of the mate bond. The kiss erupted into a fierce hunger, not just physical desire, but the reunion of two souls long broken, now returning to each other in an act as primal as it was sacred. Nerai was no longer the cold commander, but a woman who dared to love, who dared to shatter every ancient law to claim her destined mate. Her eyes glistened with tears as her hands slid over Rowan's body, every touch birthing a new glowing mate mark, linking them with living threads of silver. The chamber faded from their vision. Their breaths intertwined, their heartbeats synchronized. Rowan slipped his hands beneath Nerai's thin garment, drawing her closer, pulling both of them down onto the silver cloth. Their bodies met, the mate mark exploding into a blazing white corona, flooding the Blackstone Sanctuary like a detonation of ancient bioenergy. Entwined together, every gesture was the communion of two souls long imprisoned. No shame, No fear, no sense of power, only belonging, possession, and the rebellion of all rules. The council dared not interrupt. Their terror was real. To break the ritual now would unleash the mate bond's wrath. Silver energy flowed from Rowan's mark to Nerai's wrist, coursing through their bodies, igniting ancient runes carved into the stone. Rowan felt himself not just merging with Nerai's flesh, but pulled into a tide of memory, old battlefields, vows between souls, centuries-old heartbreak. Every pleasure, every emotion overwhelmed mortal limits, making them both shudder again and again in each other's arms. At the peak, Rowan's mate mark and Nerai's wrist crest merged into a single, blazing light. Their bodies fused into a single current of energy, breath, heartbeat, and cries blending into the shimmering brilliance. All the council collapsed at once, driven to the stone by the force of the bond. Elder Azrael groaned, "This is a true mate bond, it cannot be stopped." After the ritual, Rowan and Nerai lay together in the fading silver glow, bodies pressed close, hearts thundering. The mate mark was now a single united symbol, its silver now glowing soft as embers beneath the skin. Nerai caressed Rowan's cheek, panting, "We have awakened the ancient curse. And now, the council will do everything to erase this from Arkanis' history." Rowan rolled over, clutching Nerai to his chest, their last kiss tasting of tears and victory. But outside, shouts, pounding feet, and angry curses echoed from the sanctuary's corners. A young officer rushed in to whisper in Elder Azrael's ear, "There's unrest outside. The rebel faction just called for a gathering. Young officers want to defend this mate bond as a symbol of a new age. They're ready for a coup if the council continues to ban it." Azrael gritted her teeth. "Then blood will have to be spilled. Order an attack, eliminate all who support them." Rowan heard the command, squeezing Nerai's hand. Their eyes met, both knowing the true storm was only beginning. "Tonight, we don't just fight for the mate bond, we fight for the right of our souls to exist." Nerai nodded, her eyes ablaze with vengeance and undying love. Under the dome of the Blackstone Sanctuary, beneath a desert sky veiled with stardust, a new era in Arkanis' history had begun. The scene in the Blackstone Sanctuary, barely dimmed from the mate bond's silver blaze, was torn apart by the blaring of red alarms echoing through every level of the fortress. Beyond the great doors, weapon lights flashed and soldiers, boots thundered in waves, young warriors surging across the plaza, chanting rebellious slogans and raising the shining mate mark symbols high against the red desert sky. Inside, the Voss council scrambled, elders arguing fiercely. Elder Azrael could no longer hide her panic, her face twisted in fear and anger. "We've lost control. That mate bond, it's a fire of rebellion, something that will burn down every law unless we destroy it right now." A younger elder yelled back, "But if we kill them, the rebels will tear the council apart. We need hostages, leverage, something to bargain with." In the chaos, Rowan and Nerai still clung together atop the ritual dais. The new mate mark on their chests not only refused to fade, but blazed ever brighter, spreading glowing threads that linked their souls, filling them with power, clarity, and an unrestrained desire that transcended all limits. Rowan could feel every heartbeat, every surge of Nerai's thoughts as if they shared a single body, a single blood burning for freedom. Nerai leaned in, her breath rapid against Rowan's lips. "The union of the mate bond has changed everything inside me. I can feel your strength, ancient memories, as if we're no longer two people, but one soul reborn amid war." Rowan smiled softly, tracing the mate mark on Nerai's wrist. "Then let's use that strength to survive, to rewrite Arkanis' history. I won't let this mate bond be just an excuse for blood and hatred." The metal door slammed open and 4 soldiers burst in, weapons raised. But this time the young soldiers' eyes were full of confusion, admiration, even respect. "Commander Nerai, Rowan Veyr, you are our symbol now. They're hunting everyone who supports the mate bond. Blood has already been spilled outside. You have to come with us. There's not much time. Nerai stood at once, shrugging on her commander's cloak. Rowan needed only a nod. The mate bond banished all exhaustion and pain, filling him with fresh vigor. Together they raced through the sanctuary's halls, past fallen soldiers, through smoky corridors where fires raged from shattered windows. In the central plaza, hundreds of soldiers, engineers, and civilians had gathered beneath the red dust storm, all eyes turning as Rowan and Nerai appeared on the obsidian balcony. Rowan gripped Nerai's hand, feeling the mate mark's energy surge through his body in tidal waves. Nerai lifted her head, her voice ringing out like thunder. Sons and daughters of Arkanis. Today, the mate bond is no longer a curse. It is an opportunity, a new future. We will no longer bow to an outdated council, no longer kneel before those who fear love and the soul itself. The crowd erupted, shouts and cheers blending with old and new mate marks flaring to life, the crowd surging like a tidal wave, sweeping away the council's loyal soldiers who retreated into the alleys. Just then, a barrage of energy shells exploded across the sky, and the council's fighter ships howled overhead. The elders activated their ancient machine army, sending AI-driven units to hunt down every sign of mate bond in the stone city. In the command tower, Azrael screamed, "Destroy them! Don't let the mate bond spread. Tonight, blood will wash away all traitors." In the chaos, Rowan and Nerai were separated from the main rebel force. A unit of machine soldiers surrounded them in the grand glass hall. Rowan pulled Nerai close behind a stone pillar, plasma rifle ready in his hand. "The mate bond gives us power, but remember, we can still die." Nerai gave a slight smile, the mark on her wrist glowing with a strange new energy that made every one of her blows more deadly. "I'm not afraid to die, not when our souls are bound, but if I fall, I want it to be in your arms." They fought together, mate marks blazing shields of energy each time the machine's weapon struck. Rowan's reflexes, speed, and perception surged, amplified by the mate bond. Nerai moved with more power than ever before, every action perfectly synced to her mate's thoughts. Blood, sweat, torn clothing, their skin streaked with dust and battle marks. Under the hail of fire, they tumbled together, unsure if the tremor in their bodies was survival instinct or the desire stoked since the union ritual. In a smoky lull, Rowan drew Nerai close, kissed her brow, then her lips, a kiss that was both possessive and a goodbye to whatever unknown dangers lay ahead. "The mate bond won't die so easily," Rowan whispered. An explosion cracked the pillar, and they ducked away just as a group of young rebel soldiers rushed in, pulling them free, guiding them down into a hidden communication tunnel where the rebels had prepared a final defense. The rebel leader, a young warrior named Ilan, knelt before Rowan and Nerai. "Your mate bond is our last hope. Please lead our uprising." Nerai looked at Rowan. Their gazes met, and this time the mate mark didn't just glow for them. It sent ripples of energy through the whole band of kneeling warriors. The new bond sparked a wave of resolve. Everyone felt stronger, bolder, ready to die for the mate bond, for the right to love and be free. Above, the council tightened its grip. Ancient fighter ships appeared, plasma cannons blazing across Arkanis' starlit sky. In the war room, Azrael nearly raved. "If we don't destroy the mate bond tonight, all laws will collapse. Arkanis will belong to outsiders." In the underground labyrinth, Rowan and Nerai led the rebel warriors, storming through old tunnels, breaking down doors, smashing surveillance. Every time the mate mark glowed, another squad of machine soldiers was disabled. Young Voss fighters knelt, swearing allegiance to the mate bond, throwing down weapons in fear. The final battle raged in the council hall, beneath the silver dome, among elders cowering in hiding. Rowan strode forward, his mate mark bursting with silver light, Nerai at his side, her eyes burning with authority never seen before. "The mate bond is not a curse," Rowan declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "It is the right to freedom, the right to love, to live, and to die as yourself." Nerai squeezed his hand. Their mate marks merged, unleashing a torrent of energy that swept across the chamber, knocking the elders to their knees, shattering their weapons to dust. Above the dome, the sky exploded with fire. The rebels reclaimed the fortress. Arkanis awakened in the mate bond's light as never before. Cheers, sobs, and shouts for love, and the right to exist echoed through every layer of the Blackstone depths. When the smoke cleared, Rowan and Nerai stood together amid the devastated plaza, mate marks gleaming like an eternal vow. They looked at each other, knowing what had just transpired was not merely war, it was the rebirth of an entire world. Nerai whispered, "We may not live long, but this mate bond, and the freedom it brings, will live forever in Arkanis' memory." Rowan kissed her hand beneath the frozen stars, feeling, for the first time, his soul truly free, all limits broken for a simple truth. True love can change an entire world. The first dawn after the night of rebellion saw the stone city of Arkanis silent beneath a thin red mist. The ruins of battle crossed the square, charred ships, shattered silver armor, ancient pillars still stained with blood, and the mate bond's marks etched deep into the black stones. Amid this scene of devastation, Rowan Veyr and Nerai Voss walked side by side, shoulders touching, their mate marks catching the morning light, gentle and undeniable, a silent affirmation that what had happened the night before could never be erased from history. At their feet, young warriors, engineers, the elderly, women and children of the Voss clan bowed one after another, not out of fear, but in respect. Some painted fake mate marks on their arms and necks, symbols for a new generation, one no longer shackled by fear of love or ancient power. Behind them, the ashes of the Voss Council still smoldered. Some surviving elders accepted exile, withdrawing from power. Others were imprisoned, awaiting judgment. Elder Azrael, her silver hair loose around her gaunt face, stood watching the two figures who had changed everything through the power of the mate bond, and she had to admit, by something no ancient law could ever comprehend, the freedom of the soul. Rowan stood beside Nerai, wearing a new cloak, the silver glow of his mate mark bright beneath his collar. Nerai, no longer a commander, no longer a puppet of the council, was now the leader of a free Arkanis, her eyes softer, her smile real for the first time, free of the weight of history. The peace ceremony took place among the ruins of the fortress. Every gaze turned to Rowan and Nerai as if to living legends. Ilan, the young rebel leader, bowed for them all. "You two didn't just save your own mate bond, you saved the future of Arkanis itself. We ask you to lead the new council, so that history never repeats the tragedy of soul separation." Nerai gently shook her head, looking toward the misty horizon. "Our mate bond was not born to rule. It is a reminder. Life, love, and freedom only have meaning when each person has the right to choose. Let those who once feared the mate bond now become its protectors for the generations to come." Rowan smiled, squeezing Nerai's hand tightly. "We are not rulers, just two souls swept along by the currents of history. Choose a new path for yourselves. Never let any mate bond pay with blood and tears again." Applause rang out. Some children ran up, begging to touch their mate marks, as if hoping to receive a fragment of the miracle that had changed the world. Rowan bent down, letting the children press their fingers to his mate mark, laughing quietly. Yet somewhere inside, Nerai still carried a deep sense of loss. That afternoon, after the first meetings of the new council had ended, she quietly sought Rowan atop the fortress's highest balcony, a place to take in the city bathed in red sunlight and distant gray clouds. Rowan stood there, both hands on the railing, wind tossing his hair. Nerai wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her head on his back, whispering softly, "Do you regret it? If that first night the mate mark hadn't appeared, if you hadn't become my mate, perhaps by now you'd have returned to Earth, living a peaceful life, untouched by the pain of an alien world." Rowan took her hand, squeezing gently. "If not for the mate mark, I'd never know what it's like to love someone enough to die for them. No one knows fate beforehand, but if I could choose again, I'd still choose you, Nerai Voss, and I'd choose Arkanis." A gentle silence fell, only the wind and the beating of two hearts in sync. On their last day on Arkanis, Rowan and Nerai walked the stone city, watching children train beneath the sun, couples strolling through the square without fear now that the mate bond was accepted. They paused at a wall engraved with the names of those lost in the night of rebellion, where Nerai laid her hand, closed her eyes in remembrance of the souls sacrificed to open a new era. Rowan leaned close, murmuring softly, "It's time for us to leave, isn't it?" Nerai nodded, her eyes sparkling with tears. "This world needs to learn to stand on its own. Our mate bond should be a legend, not a chain." Before they departed, the new council and the people of Arkanis gathered to say farewell. They didn't call Rowan and Nerai commanders, nor leaders. They called them the bonded ones, souls who dared to love, to fight, and to live true to themselves. The two boarded an old starship, lifting off to a storm of fireworks and a rain of silver mate marks across the sky. Through the window, Nerai looked back at the city one last time, where mate bond lights still glittered across the square, a reminder that every barrier could be broken if love was strong enough. Rowan wrapped his arms around Nerai, whispering in her ear, "There's no such thing as home, only the person you're with. Anywhere is fine as long as I have you." Nerai smiled through her tears, her mate mark glowing one last time in the light of Arkanis' sun. "Let's fly, somewhere mate bonds have never been. We'll sow them anew." The ship vanished into the sunrise, leaving behind a changed world, a new legend written in blood and tears, and the indestructible power of two souls who dared to love until the very end.